Om Gurubhyo Namaha. Om Aim Saraswatye Namaha. So a very warm welcome to everyone. Hari Om. I am currently with a group of fellow friends in a small village called Barrydale outside of Cape Town. Oh, I'm still muted now.
You can't turn off the
So, okay, sorry, here we are. So yes, we're currently in Barrydale with a group of friends attending this satsang tonight. And so we're very happy to have all of you with us this evening. And we welcome, a very warm and special welcome to Pasquale D'Adamo. I'm hoping that I'm pronouncing the name correctly. And Geraldine Hoare, who are going to be our guest speakers tonight. I see they're sitting there with a photograph of Swami Venkatesananda between them. So we very much look forward to your sharing tonight. And yes, so if I can please hand over to you. Yes, you are muted, so if you can unmute yourself, and so then we can enjoy your sharing.
Can you hear us? Can you hear us?
Yes, we can.
Good.
We are here with our two sons, Amar and Amrit. Okay.
Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Deva Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jnanamulam Brahmurti, Pujamulam Gurupradam, Mantramulam Gurvakyam, Mokshamulam Gurupradam.
It's very lovely to be with you all this evening. For us, it's evening in Italy. That's where we are speaking from. I would like to start by telling you how I met Swami Venkatesananda. I was 17 years old. I was in Durban with my mum, and she took me along to the Divine Life Society in Reservoir Hills, Durban, to meet Swamiji, especially to meet him. As I walked in with my mum through the lounge, I saw Swamiji ahead of me, and my mum stood on the one side and I stood on the other side of Swamiji, and he put his arm around my shoulders, turned his head, gave me a kiss on the forehead, and just said, "Princess." And on many occasions in those few days, Swamiji just called me Princess. And it was all very special. The feeling, Swamiji's presence, being at the Ashram of the Divine Life Society for the first time, and being present at the satsang there with Swamiji present where he spoke. That was very, very special. I was touched, to say the least, the first time I saw a beautiful photograph of Gurudev Swami Shivananda going up the stairs to the prayer hall there. The look in his eyes just said to me that I was understood. So I felt as if I had come home. And I went to many satsangs there and would often hear recordings of Gurudev Swami Shivananda's voice. And it was absolutely amazing. Okay. I didn't see too much of Swamiji on that visit, but we did see him in Johannesburg with other friends for a few days before Swamiji was due to go to Brazil. So this was a big event. I don't know if it was a congress, it was something very important. We took Swamiji to the airport, but there was some trouble. They did not let him fly because he didn't have a visa. Some particular document he didn't have with him to land in Brazil. They tried to do everything to help him. And he came back and he sat down and he went again to the counter and he came back and sat down. We were there about a couple of hours, and quite honestly, it was amazing really to see Swamiji's calm countenance, unflummoxed, unperturbed. We were perturbed for him, you know, and we didn't know what was going to happen next. You know, was he going? Was he staying? And if he was staying, wow, where, you know, what was the next thing in program? So in the end, he didn't leave, but we had to get him a document which allowed him to stay in South Africa the time that he would have been in Brazil, so maybe 2 weeks or so. So my mother, known originally as Betty and later as Radha, had to go and find this visa for Swamiji. And she was gone for hours. Swamiji and I sat in the car and waited, you know, and of course, I wasn't talking, Swamiji wasn't talking, but you know how it is. My mind was just thinking. I must have been 18 by that time. And one moment, Swamiji just very decidedly opens the car door and says, "Let's have an ice cream." Now, I don't know how many of you have, you know, been with Swamiji when he said, "Let's have an ice cream." You know, your good manners come out, your upbringing comes out, and you think, oh, goodness gracious, and, you know, what shall I do? And there was probably somebody with a bicycle and so on, selling ice creams. So Swamiji bought me an ice cream. He bought himself an ice cream, but, you know, it was he who was doing it, and it was just like having a father there by me. Mm-hmm. And I will just say at this point that on another occasion, Swamiji we saw him hugging a young adult. She was a teenager probably, before she went away. And Swamiji said something to the effect that if you show young people what love is, then all their lives, you know, they will know what love is. That was wonderful. So many things Swamiji said to us before they ever happened, before we ever encountered these experiences. And honestly, you know, as the years have gone by and we keep remembering what he said, at the time, maybe we smiled, maybe we laughed, maybe he joked and maybe we laughed. But boy, oh boy, everything was absolutely, actually deadly serious with such deep meaning. And I'm just so blessed and so thankful to every single meeting that we had with Swamiji. Okay. Not long after, I saw Swamiji in London. I think he was staying at the Shivananda Yoga School in London. He gave a lovely talk. I wanted to ask Swamiji something that I was very undecided about for my future. So we had a few minutes talking together. And when I said goodbye to Swamiji, he gave me this enormous hug. And honestly, for a couple of weeks after that, I was just zinging with energy. It was like a flow of renewed energy flowing through my body the whole time. Yeah. So that was in London, and I put that to good use, getting up early in the morning and doing asanas. I thought that was very appropriate, and I enjoyed it thoroughly.
Okay, I'll take over for a little while. So somehow we met in Italy in 1972, and in 1974 we were working in England, and Jerry told me that this Indian monk was coming to England to give a seminar in Leicester. I had no idea about what yoga was, what all this was. But I said, well, if you want to go, I'll take some holidays with you and we can go together. And that was in June 74. And we went to meet Swamiji at Heathrow Airport. With us, there were some devotees, some of his devotees, like Prema Giddens, Judy Tobler, probably. I don't remember all of them. And I knew that we had to take something, some flowers or fruit. I had an apple in my hand, and I was really worried on how to greet this person. When it came to my turn, he had greeted everybody. Came to my turn, he looked at me, Pasquale, Italiano, buongiorno. He shook hands with me, something which I really didn't expect. That made me feel so at ease, so really that he cared for me. He remembered who I was, and he greeted me in the easiest way for me. And that really attracted me. After that, we went to Leicester. Also, I didn't know what to expect. I had no idea what yoga was, what this philosophy was. And in Leicester, we went to the parish church, Anglican church of Father Sawyer. Father Sawyer had met Swamiji in Mauritius and had invited him to come to England, to his parish, to give a seminar. He said, welcome, welcome, you can come there whenever you like. And there we were. And this was St. Michael's Church. St. Michael is the saint patron of my town here, Vasto, in Italy. So that was something familiar. I like that. But this priest, Father Sawyer, was married with 3 children. Now you see, I was brought up in a Catholic boarding school with all sorts of regulations and celibacy of the priests and all that, in which I found also a lot of hypocrisy, I must say. And when I was there, I saw that that family, the priest and his wife and the children, were in such harmony. Also, that made me feel at ease. And we used to sit around the altar after the Mass, after the celebration. We used to sit and meditate together with a candle. That was something unusual and very easy for me also. That night there was a satsang. I didn't know what it was, but anyway, everybody was singing something. Swamiji looked at me and said, "You know Latin, why don't you sing something in Latin, Kyrie eleison?" I knew that very, very well. So that satsang, I sang Kyrie eleison. And there were so many other little things which happened in those days, which really made me love him. Really, I was attracted to know more about him. I remember the next day, he used to carry his kamandalulu. It's like a big teapot made of coconut shell. He used to always carry it with him. Maybe he had some special things, some medicines. We were just outside this parish, and he suddenly handed it to me. "Hold this," he said. I was scared. I was only 22 in those days. I was scared holding this. What it is, it might break. But I really felt appreciated by him. I felt that he was giving me some responsibility. Then he tried to teach me some English pronunciation. There was a family from New Zealand amongst the others who were there. And this girl was called Heather. Of course, I used to say Heather. So Swamiji looked at me and said, 10 times he showed me how to say and then. I sort of learned it. That was a very nice experience. After that, I took 2 of his booklets. I remember The Idea of I and Yoga is Self-Discovered. And I started reading those books till I met him the next time. Now, Jerry will continue.
Yes. While Swamiji was in Leicester, I heard him say that he was going to be going to Forsbach in Germany. So I also had holidays coming up from work, and I just said to Swamiji, could I come with you? So he said, well, yes, get hold of the people and see if it's all right. So I did, and I joined them in Forsbach. Now, to some of you, that might be quite an important name, especially if you look inside the cover of the book, Yoga, because that's where the book, Yoga, was printed on their printing machine at the home of the lady that conducted the Hatha Yoga lessons and hosted Swamiji. And I'll just mention it here. In 1982, we actually traveled in our little Citroen Diane car, very small, 600cc, all the way to Forsbach to collect this printing machine, because Pasquale had translated the whole book Yoga into Italian and was ready to print many copies. So we went to Forsbach and brought this machine all the way back. So through Germany into Switzerland, then into France, back into Switzerland, and then across the border into Italy. We sort of hid the machine in the car, covered it with blankets. You know, we didn't know if we could carry something like that, if we had to declare it, if there was some tax. We didn't know anything. We just knew that we didn't want to be stopped and we didn't want any trouble.
Also, there were many chemical bottles.
Yes.
That's what I want to say.
It was rather special that we got the same machine, yeah, and printed the same book, but in another language. Yeah, very special book.
And the next time I saw Swamiji was the next year in August and September 75. We went to Mauritius. There actually I met all Geraldine's family. I only knew his brother, and the other brother and mother. And together we went to follow Swamiji's programs. In September, he also had Durga Puja there. I mean, for me, it was all new, very, very nice, but new. Also, you used to do some pujas at devotees' houses, which means a lot of camphor, a lot of smoke, a lot of incense. We couldn't breathe in those rooms, but Swamiji was doing all that as if nothing was. Very, very interesting. And it was there in Mauritius that I saw this book Yoga, which had been printed in Germany. And I started reading it and I was fascinated by it. And I asked if I could get a copy. They were a bit redundant because they had just a few copies that they had received from Germany, but at the end they gave me one. And it's the one which I worked for translating.
Yes. We went with Swamiji when he went to see certain people that had invited him, or he arranged to go and see somebody. So who did we meet? We met Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupadananda of the Hare Krishna consciousness movement. And it was a rare occasion because he died the following year, 1977, if I remember correctly. So it was amazing to see Swamiji with these very well-known people from other parts of the world, and just to see him being sweet, friendly, and so humble. Yes, it was amazing. Something Swamiji used to do every week was go to a Roman Catholic high school and speak to the girls there. We arrived this particular day with Swamiji in this big hall. It was completely empty, except for us. We took our seats as we were invited to, and about 10 minutes later, the girls started coming in, one after the other, all in a line, neatly, dressed in their uniforms and everything. Swamiji used what he saw in the talk, actually. Would you like to mention that?
What he said is, he compared it to our mind. When our mind is calm, you can see who is entering, what thought is entering. This thought is coming, that thought is coming. Like the girls that came in the room one by one. That's what meditation is. You can see clearly every thought that comes in, or every thought that has gone. While if the mind is full of disorderly thoughts, you have no idea what is in your mind. We took that example for explaining.
Yeah, especially about the full mind. In our mind, it's full. You can't put anything else in it. Nothing of any use or importance, that is for sure. Okay. When I was in Mauritius, part of the time I wasn't very well. And my mother brought the message back to the house. Oh, Swamiji says you're sick. Oh, it's a sign of being alive. That was the message. All right. During the satsangs that we attended there, and also on one occasion with the girls of the high school, we learned this particular song that they sang in French, and we then started singing it at our own satsangs wherever we were. So we would have kirtans, you know, probably in Hindi, or if they were mantras, they would be in Sanskrit, and then something in Hebrew, lots in Italian, and then this also in French. And it says, I need others, others need me. I belong to others, and others belong to me. Moi, j'ai besoin des autres, ils ont besoin de moi. Moi, j'ai besoin des autres, ils ont besoin de moi. Moi, je compte sur les autres comptent sur moi. Je compte sur les autres, ils comptent sur moi. So we learned a lot of these lovely things that were, you know, inspiring to actually think about the meaning of these words. Okay.
Shall we go forward?
Yes.
For 75. Then after this Mauritius experience, we both decided to leave England, and we went to Israel to live on a kibbutz. We actually didn't know what to do, so we went there. And while we were staying at the kibbutz, the next month of May 76, we knew that Swamiji was coming to Israel. And we knew Rachel Solberg in Tel Aviv, who had been helping us even when we arrived in Israel. And she told us that. And she said that Swamiji is going to give a seminar of asana and pranayama for a training course. And I said, what is asana and pranayama? It's physical exercises. And I said, I'm not really interested in physical exercises because I hated sports and gymnastics before that. And so I was reluctant. Rachel said, listen, he hardly ever gives a training like that. So why don't you join? And so we decided to join it. With that encouragement, we joined it. And we found a place to stay in Tel Aviv. We managed to find a place to stay and catch 2 buses in the morning to get to this gymnasium where the asana course was being held at 7 in the morning. And I must say that for the first time in my life, I discovered that some physical exercise can be something nice, non-competitive. And I really enjoyed it. I remember you used to come close to each one to correct us, to encourage us. I remember I was doing the shoulder stand, but probably not very well. And he came closer to, wow, you're doing a perfect half shoulder stand. I understood it. I had to work on it to make it better. But really, that was a nice experience. And then in the afternoons, we got to a bank hall. There were couches there, you know, like in a theater, where he would teach us pranayama. We were sitting on these seats like in a theater, but I mean, back straight. And that was very, very nice. And after that, there was a talk. And one of the evenings.
Yes, when Swamiji arrived and he was walking up the aisle, as it were, somebody asked Swamiji something about us. I didn't hear the question, but he looked over his shoulder and just answered, "Oh, their yoga is each other." That's what he said. You know.
Started explaining.
Yeah. So, you know, on the spur of the moment, you think something, you don't think very, very hard about it or very much. But then, you know, as the years go by, you really do reflect very deeply on the meaning of what he was saying. And then the last day, actually, Swamiji knew that we didn't know where we were going to go after Israel. We had no idea. We said, "Oh, we'll probably just go back to the kibbutz."
Yes. He looked at me and said, "What are you going to do now?" Well, Swamiji, we'll go to the kibbutz and see what it's like. He looked straight. "What do you want it to be like? As it was before, that's how it's going to be." Then paused a little, looked at me and said, "Go to Moscow. Bring yoga to the Adriatic coast." He called it, our place is Vasto, but he called it Moscow. I think he meant that it was something like being behind the Iron Curtain coming to this place. I said, "But nobody knows anything about yoga there. They are not interested." But, "Oh, they would be interested." He added, "One day, people around the world will look for places like that, for simple places, will run away from technology." And so that was an encouragement. And so we came here. And after a little while, the end of June, first we got back to the kibbutz. I actually started giving lessons at the kibbutz. Crazy as I was. Anyway, I had to start somewhere. And so he wrote me this letter. "I am also very happy to know that you plan to come to England in the beginning of September. By the grace of God, I hope to be there on the night of the 28th of August. Perhaps Radha plans to go there earlier." And then said, "Pasquale, a very special congratulations and thanks for your letter of the 29th of May, in which you have given an account of your first class. Excellent. You have started well. I think you have understood the spirit of yoga, and the more you share it with others, in brackets, not teach, but exclamation mark. The more you share it with others, the clearer it will become to you. You are right in using the example of the body to convey the truth concerning the universe. Even the yogis recognize such similarity between the macrocosm and the microcosm. You say, but I don't think I'm able to continue going deeper this way. How do you know? As you go on contemplating these things, in an attempt to explain them to others, more and more light will be given to you. That is the beauty and the wonder." So that was very, very encouraging. Realizing it here, nobody was interested. I mean, we started a yoga class with a few children that lived nearby. They were interested, that's all. But his letter was very encouraging.
The children were inhibited. They were very curious. They looked in through the windows. They asked if they could come in. So they jumped in through the windows and joined us. After that, the only people really that showed any signs of interest were 19-year-olds, and they were a group of friends, you know, from school days before they went to university. They used to come and do. I think they were interested. Once Swamiji, before we ever started, he said, only 2 or maybe 3 people will be interested in meditation. Okay, so he's talking about our situation, living in a small town, you know, in Italy, on the Adriatic coast, where there was absolutely no yoga whatsoever, and a lot of skepticism about it, and fear. Yeah. When we were in South Africa, once, maybe it was in 1981, was it? Swamiji called us into a little room. I remember.
At the end of the Krishna Jayanti. Yeah, there were Krishna Jayanti celebrations in Cape Town. And I think on the last day, he just called both of us, come. And he made us sit. He was in front of us. And they say, you must learn this mantra. And he taught us repeatedly. We had to repeat this mantra to have children. He taught us this mantra to have children, repeat it every day. And so we started doing that. And on occasions, I mean, when talking about children, we said, well, when you have sons, and here there are 2 sons, how did you know that there would be sons, not daughters, 2 and not 1? I don't know. So.
Paris, 1982.
So I started.
Yes.
In January, we heard that Swamiji was going to Paris, March 82. So once I phoned him, I don't remember where he was, but I phoned him. I said, Swamiji, we are thinking of coming to Paris. He stopped him. You are thinking? Oh, Swamiji will come to Paris. So we made up our mind and prepared ourselves to go to Paris.
We stayed with him in this ambassador's house, near Versailles, actually, in a place called La Selle Saint-Cloud. There was a wood just near the house where we would take walks with Swamiji. The walks with Swamiji, those years in Germany, in Hinsnang, and also near Versailles, were always very, very fast walks. Yeah, he had a purpose, and he just went. He wouldn't wait for anybody, and he would just go. Okay. On that occasion, when we came back from the walk, Swamiji said, "Now my suitcase is packed. You youngsters must take over now." Okay.
In fact, that was the last time I saw him.
Yes.
And somebody had given him a pair of sandals, rubber sandals with pins.
Yeah, noppies.
They said, this massages your feet, it's good for health. So you would wear those for walking in the wood. But there was a bit of mud, so the underneath part, so much mud would get stuck there. Every day you would give the sandals to somebody to clean them. On the last day, he was going up the steps and took off his sandals and he said, "Who wants to?" And I quickly said, "I will, Swamiji." But the sentence was, "Who wants to walk in my footsteps?" I hadn't heard that. I just wanted to clean his shoes, but he gave them to me. I said, "Oh, Swamiji, I didn't understand what he meant." So embarrassing. Who wants to walk in my footsteps?
And he gave you them to keep.
Yeah.
Yes.
That helped me to try and walk in his footsteps. Then, as he was leaving, we were at at the airport, Charles de Gaulle airport. It was a very modern airport in those times. It had a central part and then some like satellites. Each door for exit was like, and he was on. They gave him a wheelchair to make it easier to go on the plane. But as we were waiting, we were sitting there in the hall. And a student girl just came near and said, "I was attracted to come here." And she said, "I'm studying biology. I was just curious." And she listened a little bit and she asked Swamiji a question about what is, I studied biology, but what is life? What is death? She asked. Swamiji said, what does bios mean? It means life. Well, if it is life, it never dies. That's what he said to her. She was completely new to yoga, I mean, nothing. If it is life, it never dies. Those words were so impressed in my mind. Life, it never dies. That's the last words that we heard from him. He left. But before that, on one of the last days, once he called me, "Come to my room because my curtain doesn't close well." And as I went in, his desk was full of bottles of medicines. I said, "Swamiji, all these medicines," I was really got shocked. "Oh, no, they're mostly herbal remedies," he said to me. Mostly herbal remedies, but there were so many, 30 or 40. I was a bit shocked. Anyway, he said, "Climb on this desk to adjust the curtain," and that was it. Then, I think the next day or something before, he called me and Priya Hart. Priya was there with us. And he said, "Find a nice sharp cutter and a ruler." And we went up to his room, and there he had his tiger skin, which Shivananda had given him. She used to carry with him all the time. Just, he had everything, the head, the tail, was a full tiger skin, which he used for meditation. He said, "You just cut a rectangle out of this, because it's become too heavy for me to carry around the world." "But why do you want to cut it?" So, "No, it's too heavy for me." He said, "Well, this rectangle, just like this, will be sufficient." So I put the ruler there and I started cutting. This cutter wouldn't cut anything. "Swamiji, it's hard," I said. It's hard. Meaning animal skin is hard to get rid of. So I had to press quite a lot. And I managed to get the rectangular part, which he took. And what was left was like a frame. So Priya said, "We can make a picture frame with your photo in it, Swamiji." And he said, No, I don't want all these relics. No relics. He wasn't enthusiastic about the idea. So I don't know what happened to that part. That was his comment. So those were the last things.
Yes. And every day there were several programs. There were lessons of different sorts, singing with a particular teacher, or this was always before the Swamiji's morning talk. There were lots of people there, all staying in the house. And the one day, Swamiji sat in front of us and he was explaining. He had a whiteboard and he was illustrating a few letters of the Sanskrit alphabet. It was a wonderful opportunity. After this lesson, somebody that hadn't been present came in, and with great enthusiasm, Pasquale said to him, "Oh, we've just learned the Sanskrit alphabet." And Swamiji was still there, and he said, "Yes, just a few letters of the Sanskrit alphabet." Just a little bit. Yeah. So even that, anything that he said, well, made me realize, and I still think about it today, you know, the meaning of it. You know, what am I saying? And is it exactly like that? Or is it just actually partially right? One of the things in the program was Mona.
Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
I know because I recorded all his talks. And on Thursday, there is no talk because it was a silent talk.
Yes, that's right.
The day before, he prepared us and said, you know, how to behave if somebody rang at the doorbell, what to do. But this silence must be not only verbal, must be non-communication. So don't just look at people indicating what you want. No communication. But we managed very, very well. It was beautiful to be in silence. And at 10 o'clock in the morning, he usually gave his talk. He said, there will be a talk. We sat there. We sat there. He was silent. We were silent. But you know, it was incredible. He actually said, if you have questions, ask them. Yeah, mentally, ask these questions. And, you know, it was incredible. You know, as if those questions were answered anyway by waiting in the silence. It was an experience. And the next day we could talk, but the voice wouldn't come out. It was like for me, it was like a foreign thing. The voice which I heard, my voice, was like a foreign thing. It was so strange to talk again.
And for me, it was like having physical, material things in my mouth. Yeah, the first couple of minutes, words were like hard things sitting in my mouth. And there in Paris, another thing that Swamiji said when we were outside, perhaps somebody said something about relationships. And I remember him saying, well, why get on that ship? You know, and I've thought so much about that, time and time again. So often we don't want to listen. You know.
Yeah, that if you get in a relationship, you must realize that around that ship in the sea, there are mines. And these mines, this is mine, and this is mine, those mines can explode and the ship will sink. This English was so fantastic. But I remember another occasion, we were traveling from Durban to Cape Town, and he stopped in East London and Port Elizabeth for programs. I don't remember if it was in East London or in Port Elizabeth. He liked to sit outside in the sun, in the full sun of South Africa in the midday. And I also sat without a hat on to listen to his talk. He looked at me and said, "No, move to the shade, move to the shade." I was stubborn. No, it's all right, Swamiji, it's all right. He didn't say anything. The next morning, I had a very heavy headache. And I told Swamiji, I have a headache. Ah, go and put your head under the running water. Put your head under the running water in the tub. And I understood that I should have listened to him the day before.
While we were walking in the woods near Versailles, it was so interesting because, you know, you don't always get on perfectly well with everybody. Some people are fast and quick and they speak fast and they answer quickly, they answer back. And other people seem to be really slow, you know, never seem to get anything done. Maybe they don't even answer. And Swamiji just put that all right, at least for me. He said, that is their nature. If a person is fast by nature, you can't ask them to walk with slow steps. You can't ask them to speak more slowly. If a person is slow, You can't ask them to hurry up, you know, make up their mind and be fast just to suit you. He said people have their own nature. And I think he was answering quite a few questions that some of us had, because obviously, you know, living in a house full of so many people where you all had to get on in some sort of way with all the daily chores, feel terribly comfortable with it.
If there are some questions, you can stop here if there are questions.
Someone asking questions?
Can't hear the question.
We don't hear. Do you, Swami Venkatesananda?
No, I'm not hearing. Who is actually asking the question? Can you raise your hand, or maybe some kind of interference? Okay. I don't think that's a question, actually. We don't know what is happening. So does anybody have a question or like to share something? You can raise your hand.
It's very nice to see you. Swami Venkatesananda, can you hear me?
Hari Om Sushila.
Swami Sushila, you have to unmute yourself.
Can you hear us?
Yes, it's so wonderful to see you guys. You haven't changed. I recognize you.
So many years, so many years.
So many years, and yet here we are.
You know what I remember of you in Cape Town? We were looking for a stapler.
I know. We nailed that book together instead of binding it. Swamiji made us use a hammer and nails to.
Right, that's right.
You remember?
When you do a job, do it the best you can. So that is the best you can. It's all right.
Yeah, he said be practical. Just this'll work, and it was his idea.
Yeah.
So that report, everyone has a copy. If you look, it's nailed together, not probably.
Yes, Aruna Mataji.
Yes, Pasquale, I am happy also to see you again, because it's a long, long time. But you forgot the time we went through the inauguration of the ashram in Paris.
Now, who is there? Aruna.
Yeah.
Where are you?
Put up your hand.
Let me see you. Judy is there. Wow, so many people that we know are there. Aruna. I found you, Aruna.
That's it.
Lovely to see you.
Same, really lovely to see you.
We remember quite well the inauguration. We remember Shivananda Ashram in Paris.
Mm-hmm.
And we
Circle de Yoga, Venkatesananda.
That was already.
Oh, I see.
And we made a wooden writing.
Exact.
Yes, yes. Thank you for the picture you sent to Australia, which they sent us, all of us with Swamiji. Are you still in Paris now? Where are you?
Right now, no, I am in Normandy, but it's Paris.
You still have the yoga center in Paris?
No, I don't have any more yoga center.
Okay. It was a very nice.
Knew her. Yeah.
It was a nice time. It's nice seeing you again.
Yes.
It was an amazing time.
Amazing time, that's right.
Very rare. And there were so many of us all together.
I remember your two students, Namash Vaya. You remember? Vaya and
Yes.
Swamiji used to call them Namash Vaya. Well, it was this opportunity, it's a great opportunity that Swami Venkatesananda has made for us to see each other again, tell us something about our life. There I see Charmaine also.
So
Hi.
Hello. Charmaine.
Ariom, it's so lovely to see you.
Oh, that's Charmin.
Yeah.
Yes.
How can they do this?
Can I do this?
And this is Davis here too.
Dave. Nice to see you. Look at that.
It's good to see you.
You know, Swamiji used to call you the divine couple. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Really?
It's so lovely. It's like seeing family.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here.
Nice surprise to see you.
Wonderful, rare occasion. And there's Judy. Nice to see you, Judy.
Judy. I'm translating the Upanishad talks at Ananda
Hello.
Kuti.
Hello.
Hello, Judy.
So lovely to see you, as Sushila said, all these years, and here we are.
Here we are.
So many
was
memories.
Where are you living now?
Still in Cape Town?
Oh, good.
Yes, yeah.
Very nice.
I am translating the Upanishad talks that Swamiji gave at Ananda Kuti. And it
How
starts
wonderful.
with you and your baby crying.
Wonderful. Yeah, yeah.
That's the baby crying. It's so nice.
I was laughing so much when you told the story of taking a printing machine in your car across borders. And I was thinking, how on earth did they get a printing machine in a car? Because I was thinking of that huge one that Toby used to use in the
car was nearly touching the ground.
which took up the whole room.
Yes, no, it wasn't a huge one.
No, it wasn't huge. It was an offset,
Yeah.
but I guess that an offset was you put it on a table. So it was.
Anyway, happy
But it was
memories,
heavy.
and it's lovely to see you. Thank
And
you.
you, lots of love. Lots of
And
love
to you
everybody.
both. To you both.
Actually, when you said that, it reminded me how often Swamiji asked us to smuggle things. We smuggled a lot of things into South Africa for him.
Remember the grape diet we did also. Grape diet.
Yeah, the grape diet in Cape Town.
1 week.
We brought Radha's statue of Lord Venkateswara back to Italy. That was a story in itself, actually. On the plane to the airport, 33 kilos.
That's hand luggage. We managed to carry Venkateshwara's hand luggage.
He practiced carrying the statue for days before we had to go on the plane to make it look like just a normal bag that he was carrying. We were really afraid. We didn't know how we were going to manage, but when we went through the security check,
The X-ray.
yeah,
He was a stout man, couldn't lift it. And he looked at me and said, "Oh, it's a religious statue. Oh, sorry. And he accompanied through the X-ray, carrying Venkateshwara through the X-ray, because I had all covered it with cloth and so on, like made it like a bag. On the plane, I was trying to put it by my feet. Obviously, Venkatesha didn't like to be there. The hostess came and said, "Oh, look, bring it to, come with me, come with me." And she took me at the back of the plane, where she had a vertical cupboard, her own cupboard. She said, put it here, put it here. And Venkatesha could travel in the hostess's cupboard comfortably. When we arrived at Rome airport, there were no trolleys, it was heavy. But we walked a while. After, behind the corner, there was one trolley. On this trolley, there was a carry, a
pair of wheels.
Those wheels that you used to carry bags in the old days, with an elastic. So this carrier was perfect for the study of Venkatesha to go after the airport until we got to the bus. So I know somebody accompanied Venkatesha all the way. What we thought was very difficult became so easy. Anyway.
Well, thank you. I'm sorry to cut short,
yes.
but we have the time issue also. But yeah, thank you so much, Pasquale. Now I hope I'm a bit closer to the proper pronunciation.
Much better now, perfect.
And I'm so sad, you know. We were in Italy 2011, a few of us, and I didn't know that you were there. We would have otherwise definitely made a point of visiting you. So unfortunately, only found out much later, because we actually made a point of trying to visit a few Shivananda-related centers. So, but now, at least we've met now. And Geraldine also, very glad to meet you. As I mentioned, we of course know your brother very well. I also met your mother, Radha, but we know Tim very well. He's so very, very closely connected to our ashram and has done much seva for us. So very wonderful to meet you also. And so thank you very, very much. And I'm very glad that our next speech, this was actually the talk for September. But Pasquale and Geraldine were not able to talk on the Thursday, so we made it for today. So the October talk is with Swami Sushila. So she's here today. So Mataji will be sharing with us this month on the 29th, details to be shared. And then November also already we actually organized this for Aruna Mataji to speak. So she's also with us.
That's nice.
So then that links nicely to the conversation we had just now. So thank you all very much for joining, and thank you for sharing. And we're very happy that this is something that is of value to all of us here, and also the little group here in Berrydale. We're just down the road, so to say, from Charmaine and Dave. And so yes, hope we will meet you also soon again. So God bless everyone. Asatoma Satkamaya Tamasoma Jyotir Gamaya Mrityoma Mitam Gamaya Om Shanti 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 Bhagwan Ki Jai.
Jai.